Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador and Prof. Farshnur. We will now open the floor for questions from the audience. It can be directed to Professor Farish or to the ambassador himself. So to the audience, please.
Hello, and thank you very much. Congratulations, Professor. I'm Vera. I'm from Portugal and also from Africa, since my mother is African, my father is Portuguese. I was born in Angola, and part of my ancestors were slaves, and part of them were slavers. So I'm quite at ease to speak about slavery and the diversity. Um, just to add some notes, to your fantastic uh, sharing. About slavery. Slavery is probably as old as the world. I don't know if I'm not an academic, but African tribes, uh, long before the European has arrived to Africa, they fought, killed, and made slaves between each other. We know that for a fact. And as a matter of fact, also Arabs made slaves in Africa long before the Europeans. Some numbers suggested that there are also today in the world more slaves from the human trafficking than in other times. So I think just that's still a lot to be done in our world. And Portuguese were not only looking for money from trade, of course they were, but they were looking for souls. As the missionaries looked to convert people, but then again, who didn't? Who doesn't? From these parts of the world, as you know, Arabs were trading spices, the precious Indonesian nutmegs and cloves, with the Dutch and the Portuguese and the European, asking for astronomical quantities of money. That's why we wanted to discover where the island was, so that we could save some money. It's true. And one interesting curiosity also, Portuguese is today one of the few former colonies, I think, whose ancient colonies still speak Portuguese, as my own native country, Angola, as their official language, as Brazil also. I find it interesting that, as our great poet Fernando Pessoa said, my nation, my motherland is the Portuguese language. I think that it is nice to think about this a specific way of feeling the world, of thinking. Could of one specific language could unite us in a specific way of feeling this world. And finally, just to express gratitude to the so truly inspired Indonesian Pancasila, which we can learn so much from this vision, the so needed skills of unity in diversity in our nowadays world. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you.
Anyone else? Or you can stand and introduce yourself, yeah?
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our distinguished guest, their excellencies, and my academic friends and my teachers. I will ask two questions, but I'm worried my supervisor will punish me later after the questions. The first question, as you mentioned, that the Dutch came to India as a trader, merchants. Uh, Portuguese came to India as merchant. Uh, English came to India as merchants. All the colonial powers came to India and Southeast Asia. But my question is that what positive things they give to us and Southeast Asia and South Asia, and what negative reflection they lived here in our continent, South Asia and Southeast Asia. And the second question, if Indonesia joined BRICS, what are the benefits of BRICS joining BRICS for Indonesia, and how it will reshape its culture? As you mentioned about diversities, inclusiveness, but how can Indonesia and the rest of the Southeast Asian country maintain their own cultural identity? Is that the question?
Well, I would just comment on your BRICS question. I think that BRICS, above all, is a very important forum of discussion. I have to confess that only this year that Brazil, or this semester that Brazil is chairing BRICS, and that I'm posted in another BRICS country, I became aware of the dimension of BRICS. There are so many groups of discussions, from economy to environment to trade, you name, to arts, culture, women empowerment, you name it. There are so many areas of discussion. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to get to know each other through this fora of discussions. The second importance of BRICS is that together it's easier for us to be heard. I think there is much weight in what BRICS says than in what Brazil or Indonesia might say. So this is it. I think that basically BRICS is another way for countries from the global south to get into the discussion of important issues that in the past were mainly seen from the North Atlantic perspective and not from the global south perspective.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, and I completely agree with Ambassador here. I think singularity scares me because logically it's dangerous and politically it's dangerous. And I think the importance of having not just BRICS but any other forum is that it's another forum. That's the point. That's the point.
Brazil and Indonesia are also members of G20.
Exactly, exactly. And I think the need to have multiple avenues also opens up the way of building new avenues. Like I said, an actual face-to-face interaction between Indonesia and Brazil, or South America and Southeast Asia. I think this is long overdue. So the way it's cast, unfortunately, often is that if I'm quoting someone here, you're either with us or against us. Yeah. So if you're not with us, if you join those guys, those BRICS guys, then you're on the other side. And I reject this kind of oppositional dialectics because that's not smart politics. Smart politics is when you multiply your alternatives rather than diminish your alternatives. Anyone who wants to diminish his alternatives is really putting that country or that economy on the path of disaster. And I think we should welcome initiatives like BRICS because they open up new avenues. And like Ambassador said, it's not simply about business, it's about a whole range of issues, from culture to issues of gender and questions of power and equality and what have you. To go back to your point about protecting cultural identity. So again, I don't believe that any society has a singular culture, right? And I think that's one of the unfortunate byproducts of more than 300 years of a certain kind of Orientalist discourse, where parts of the world, societies and nations are actually seen and cast in a very frozen way. And that's the power of these images. Yeah, these images that you saw just now, I mean, they're pretty images. But what they do is they freeze you. They freeze you like butterflies in a frame. And I have a very ambiguous relationship, because on the one hand, I find these images aesthetically pleasing, but on the other hand, I find these images very dangerous. Because if you can only depict a Brazilian half naked with a blowpipe, that's dangerous. If you can only depict a Timorese with a machete and a head in his hand, that's dangerous. The image might be exotic, it might be pretty, but it has the power to freeze. And I think this is why I'm worried about this talk about, how do we protect our culture? What culture? Cultures are alive. All civilizations are alive. They need to breathe. They need to interact. And through this interaction comes cross-fertilization. And from there, cultures, gain their dynamics. The moment you close it out, you kill it.
you museumize, and this is what 300 years, I think, of colonialism did to many parts of the world. It put them in museums, that this is your dance, this is your food, this is your dress, and that's it. That's it. That's it. Edward Said was once asked the question, he said, you write so much about Orientalism, but when you write about music, you write about European classical music. And so they asked him, why do you write about European classical music? And he replied, he said, just because I'm an Arab doesn't mean I have to like Arabic music, right? And he's right, just because you're Chinese doesn't mean you have to like Chinese food. Just because you're Indian doesn't mean you have to like Indian music. You have the right to want other things and like other things and explore. And for me, this is the irony of the age of exploration, because as the world was explored, the world was frozen. Everyone gets a place. You're put in a human zoo and you're trapped there forever. And we are still trying to get out of it. And that's what BRICS means. It's an attempt to find a way out so that we don't look at the world only through one lens. That's not a bad thing, I think. That's not a bad thing.